Welcome to the Jerry Bovino Show. And now, here's Jerry.
Jerry Bovino, we're back with a very compelling story today. The sexy skydiving artist, you are not going to believe this story, Rosalyn Pergande. Rosalyn, welcome to the show. We're happy to have you.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, we wanted to have your devilishly handsome husband, Don, on the show, but he's like, I got to work. I would have given him a doctor's note.
I would have loved for him to be here today. It would have
I
been
know.
great.
It would have been fun. And I met Rosalyn along the way several times at some political parties and things, and you're a very fascinating young lady. So we're going to start at the top and work our way down.
Okay.
And so you're originally from?
Well, I grew up all over the U.S., but I just say I'm from Florida and Aspen. Those are my homes.
Okay, where do you still have a place in Florida?
And no, but currently I just go back and see all my family. And
okay, where do they live?
Jacksonville Beach, Florida.
Okay.
It's northeast Florida, just north of St. Augustine.
Yeah, we have good friends who live in Punta Vedra, which is,
I'm like 1 minute outside of Ponte Vedra.
Yeah.
Actually, probably not even a quarter of a mile.
It's a beautiful place.
It is. I love it.
So you were raised in a fascinating family because you are like the quintessential risk taker, right? I mean, you love extreme sports.
I do.
And there are a lot of people in town like you. Like, a lot of us like to do extreme things for us, but they may not be extreme for the people who like jump on snowmobiles and do circles. But you do really extreme, dangerous things, and you like that.
I do.
Do you think it's in your DNA somewhere, or why do you think you do it?
I think it is kind of in my DNA. Had a grandmother that wanted to do it. My mom started in the 70s. My father was a pilot, and my uncle was a race car driver. I think it's somehow in there, and my daughter, now she has it. So.
Would you, as a mother, and we'll get to your relationship with your daughter in a few minutes, but as a mother, are you going to be nervous if your kid says she wants to be jumping out of planes? And
you know what? I think no matter what, as a mom, you're always going to be nervous. If she has a desire to go out there and do something, I'm going to be supportive. Yeah, I mean, I think all mothers are nervous when their kid goes out there and does something risk-taking. I'm sure my mom felt the same way.
Well, the funny thing is, our son David, who is an attorney here in town, was a champion tennis player. It was really great. But all those kids want to play football, and I didn't like the idea of these 300-pound linemen falling on him, you know. So I said, you play tennis. He stays on his side of the net. You stay on your side of the net. Because as a parent, you're afraid.
I'm sure there's some risk in tennis as well.
Yeah, not as much as there is in having some linebacker hit you at 30 miles an hour.
I
But
guess
okay,
not.
so let's start. You learned as a relatively young girl to skydive and to fly planes. Are you a pilot too?
You know what? I am actually trying to get my pilot's license someday, and I plan to get it by 30. But I have not flown an airplane since I was 17 years old, so it's been a very long time. Never got my pilot's license, but I spent many times behind you know, just being there with my dad. And actually once when I was 17 years old, the skydivers don't know this, but I told the pilot next to me, I said, you know, my dad used to let me fly his airplane all the time. Do you mind if I take a spin? And I had probably 18 skydivers in the back, and they had no idea a 17-year-old girl was flying the plane.
Oh, that's so
that
funny.
was funny. That was the last time I flew a plane.
So tell us now, your family, so you have this whole history of this multi-generational skydiving thing going on.
Yes.
When did you start? When did you?
My first time was when I was 16 years old, and I was supposed to start sooner than that, but finally, my mom, we were on a trip to California, and we're in Arizona. I said, you know what, Mom, you go ahead to California. I'm going to stay here and learn to skydive with my friends. And she's like, well, okay, I'll let you go and do that. So that week I got my license, and I've been a licensed skydiver ever since. So.
And you instruct also?
No, I actually didn't instruct. My mom instructed.
Oh, your mom was the instructor. So tell me a little bit about this. Like I've never skydived, but I want to. I mean, my cousin did it, and
you should.
How does it start? Like, if I wanted to skydive, what would I do now to do that?
You'd go to a skydiving club nearby. You can go to dropzone.com.
Are there any here in Colorado?
There are. There's several in Colorado. And there's Mile High Skydiving Club that's nearby. Where I love to go, actually it's my favorite, is Skydive Moab. They have such a beautiful view. It's only 4 hours away. And when you go up there, it's just breathtaking. I mean, you see it down when you're on the ground, how amazing Moab is with its landscape. But when you go to skydive there, it's unbelievable.
But
So
how will
I
it
would
work?
go
Now, I
there.
call them up, and it takes a weekend, or how
Yeah, you
they
could-
give you some ground training? Walk us through it.
So if you did a tandem, it'd probably be 15, no longer than 20 minutes of instructional time. And then they'll just walk you through some stuff. They'll have you do all the typical things of signing a waiver. They'll get you geared up.
The
And
waiver is an important
The waiver
thing.
is important.
If you die, it's like bad for business.
Yes, so don't do that. But you do that. They get you geared up, and they'll make you all excited and happy. They'll probably shoot a video of you if you want, and they'll take you
Now,
up
the
to
first jump
13,000.
is a tandem jump
You
always,
don't
or not?
have to, but that is very typical for people to do that. It makes you a little more comfortable, gets you a little more used to the idea of jumping out of a plane. You can do AFF, and they still do static line in some places. I'm not sure if all.
Static line means
Static
you're
line,
attached, so
yep.
it pulls your.
It pulls your chute for you. It's attached. The line's attached to the plane. You jump out. It pulls your canopy. All you do is have to land it. So it's pretty nice. But I would always suggest do a tandem first. They'll take you to 13,500 feet usually, and they'll make you just feel comfortable and easygoing, and they'll take you and have a really nice ride.
And so the relative safety of this, if I wanted to try it, if I want to go with my son or something, we're going to drive over to Moab, and we want to do a tandem jump, I guess but if I said, no, I want to jump out of the plane by myself and pull my ripcord or whatever, that's.
You can do that.
You can
you
do
will
that.
do AFF. There'll be 2 skydivers flying right beside you, one on each side, and they'll make sure you're being aware. They'll do hand signals and make sure you're being stable, and make sure you pull your chute, and then they'll talk you down on the radio once your canopy is open to the ground. So that's
Okay.
another option.
And how many, do you count how many jumps you've had?
Yes.
Is this like boyfriends in high school, or what?
Pretty
How
much.
many have we had?
Well, for skydiving, not boyfriends.
We don't want to scare anybody here, especially Don.
Yes, for skydiving, it's a little over 500.
Wow.
But that's actually not very many for a girl that's been in the sport as long as I have. But I took 6 years off and on here and there because of having a mom, and then I went back to skydiving, and then so there's been gaps. But my mom has several thousand.
How did your mom become a skydiver? Because
she was motivated. As a child, she always wanted to fly. She wanted to be in the sky.
She's a pilot?
And no, she's not a pilot. I think she has flown my dad's plane off and on, but never was a pilot.
what kind of planes you got?
He doesn't have one currently, but he always loved having Aztec twin engine. He mentioned a plane that he's thinking of buying soon. I'm not sure what it was he said he was thinking of getting, but he's determined to have one again soon. So, that's the plane we used to travel with as a family to skydiving clubs and stuff. So it was nice.
Right, well, that's a very cool thing. So, now, you never owned a skydiving company or anything.
We had a family company actually.
That
so
did it.
Yes,
what are the
did.
economics of that? How much does insurance cost for something like that?
Well, with the competitions, we did competitions. We had 2 different companies. We have an apparel line and equipment line for, we sold helmets to rigs to canopies to wingsuits, which was fun. And then we started doing
Wingsuits are the ones that make you look like a flying squirrel,
yes,
right?
They are. Yes, and you would love those. So we used to do the competitions, and those were definitely a risk-taking competition. And I probably won't get into all the logistics with the insurance and everything. Definitely, there's a risk there. We used to do it with the World Freefall Convention, and I'm sure they had something more structured, and that was pretty neat. That was actually the biggest skydiving event in the entire world. You get like 5,000 skydivers there in one event, and they don't have that event currently anymore. I heard that they might start it up someday, so I hope so. That would be fun.
Have you had your husband skydive yet? Have you taken him?
Yes. I took him when Layla was just a baby. I took him to Skydive to Land, which is in Florida. And I had actually one of my friends take him up on the tandem. I got to jump out with him, which is a lot of fun. And I made the mistake of telling the guy, can you please give him just a thrill ride? He overdid it. He would not stop spinning and flipping.
Oh,
I think
God.
he made my husband a little sick.
He's had
So
it.
I was like, oh well. So,
Well,
but it was fun.
Let's talk a little bit about. Well, here's what we're going to do. We got a lot of stuff to talk about today, but we should take a short break to recognize the underwriters who very generously support us here at Grassroots Television. U.S. Trust, the premier name in private wealth management. Bishop Plumbing, Heating and Air Conditioning, and the Bovino law firm David Bovino and Summer Woodson-Berg. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to hear the story about how Rosalyn met her movie star handsome husband, and we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to be a mom. We're going to talk a little bit about the other sports she does, because she does everything. We're talking surfing, wind tunnels. We'll be right back.
Support for this grassroots community television program comes from U.S. Trust. From wealth structuring to investment management, U.S. Trust's global perspective, unique team approach, fiduciary platform, and more than 200 years of experience provide for the kind of insights, solutions, and expertise that have a worth all their own.
Bishop Plumbing and Air Conditioning, serving Aspen and Vale for over 40 years. Shoe covers, name tags, IDs. Let Bishop worry about your heating, plumbing, and air conditioning issues so that you don't have to. Bishop Plumbing and Air Conditioning, 925-8610.
Bovino Law Firm, a boutique law firm specializing in complex litigation, real estate, leasing, and sales, corporate organization, trust, and estates. Admitted in Colorado, California, and New York. David Bovino and Summer Woodson at 970-925-4445 or www.bovinolaw.com.
Bovino, we're back with the sexy skydiving artist. You're not going to believe this story. Rosalyn Pergande, she does everything, and she lives right here with us in Aspen, so we're lucky to have her in town. Let's talk a little bit. First of all, did you ever scare yourself skydiving? Was there anything that happened that said, oh man, I could have killed myself?
Yes.
Tell us that story.
I have to choose one. Let's see. All right, one time, I've had a few scary situations, but the one I actually really did not like very much, we accidentally jumped out and the storm was hitting so fast. We didn't see the storm happen. We jumped out and we get caught in a lightning storm while skydiving. And I waited to pull and this never happens because FAA regulations are very strict, so this is one of those fluke situations. Anyway, I did not want to pull my parachute too fast. I wanted to go as low to the ground as I could that was still safe and regulations. And I went down to that lowest point and I pulled and I could see lightning bolts just coming down everywhere.
How do you know, do you have an altimeter with you?
Yes, we do, yes.
And what's the lowest you can go before you pull your chute?
I think, usually I pull at 3,500 feet. For me, I would never go lower than 2,500 unless I had a malfunction. Ground line, you want to make sure you have a canopy above your head at 1,800 if you have a bad one.
Otherwise,
you
won't
away.
slow well enough to not turn into a bug on a windshield.
Yes. Yes. So anyway, I pulled that canopy, and the moment it opened, I was pulling that toggle and just spinning hard to the ground, and the wind was just taking my canopy and keeping it up and up and up and up. And I just see bolts of lightning coming down. I see my sister over here under her canopy, my mom over here. I'm like, please, God, just get us to the ground and inside the doors.
Yeah, you did a three-generational
yes,
jump too, right?
We did, yes. I wasn't on it. My grandmother, Dorothy Kresge, and my mom, Annie Trock, and my sister, Olivia Thompson is her name now. They all did a three-generation skydive. I was able to do ground crew videoing for them because I wasn't able to go on the jump at the time. And it was really great. I know it aired on a TV show. I don't know which one. I can't remember right now. But it was just really exciting. My grandmother, she was just such a sweetheart, and she just wanted to be in the sky. So to have her have the opportunity.
How old was she at the time? Do you remember?
I think she was in her late 70s or
Wow.
early 80s.
That's great.
And she was just this cute little lady, and she wanted to be in the air so much. And so, you know, she had one of our grid friends with her as her instructor, and we had there was a lot of people in the skydive. There were several people of her closest friends there with her, plus my mom, my sister. So it was a really great opportunity.
All right,
Yeah.
so let's set the stage now. You're a surfing instructor.
Yes.
And you're on your way to Brazil for
Yes.
6 months to instruct surfing.
Yes.
But somehow you got to Aspen. Tell us that story about how you met your husband.
Okay, well, I was actually, had my ticket booked, everything was ready to go, and I was ready to move there. I was getting my bags packed, everything settled.
Where were you
And
going in Brazil?
I was going to go to Florianopolis first.
Florianopolis,
and
okay.
Around São Paulo area, and I was going to mostly be in Florianopolis. So my sister, she started begging me to come with her and her boyfriend. She's like, I need a chaperone. Can you please come with me to Aspen? And it's now her husband that was her boyfriend at the time. She begged me for 2 weeks straight, and I'm like, no, I'm really on my way to Brazil. I really can't. There's no way. She wouldn't let up. So finally, we're actually at a skydiving event, and that's when I finally made my decision to rebook my ticket to Aspen. I was in the middle of a sunset jump, and it was beautiful, and I'm like, you know what? It can't hurt me. Let's just go to Aspen. So I got on the ground, called my airline person, and said, okay, I'm going to switch it to Aspen. Get to Aspen. Within 30 minutes, there was a knock on the door, and there was my husband. And I answered it, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that guy is so cute. And he ended up being one of the most cutest, craziest men I ever met, and I was quite taken with him instantly.
How many years ago was that?
That was 7 years ago, and about a week from now. So it's coming up. Our anniversary of when we met is coming up in about a week.
Did he
so.
know? Tell me about a little bit about the dynamic. Did he know that you were like hot for him or not?
I don't know, but I think he was wondering, because I didn't say anything, but it was so funny, he felt the same way, and anytime he had 5 minutes from work, he would bolt down the street, knock on the door, just to see me for 5 minutes and say, hi, how's it going? You know, what you up to? And then he would take off, and then he would bolt to work. I'm like, is this guy work? Like, I keep on seeing him poke his head in every 5 seconds, and he would just do it just so he could see me whenever he could. And finally asked me out to go snowboarding with him, and we did, and we had so much fun. And then we started dating at my friend's wedding, who we just saw this past week. They came back into town. And, you know, we just hit it off right away. I couldn't get enough of being around him. And
it's an interesting thing. When you're really crazy about someone, you just want to be with them all the time. Sometimes I have girls on the show when we're doing sort of dating segments, and the girl says, well, he's very busy and he likes to go with his dog, and so he doesn't have time for me. I said, no, let me explain. If a guy is crazy about you, he doesn't want to really be with his dog. If he wants to be with his dog, he'll bring his dog to you.
Exactly.
I mean, he's not going to just go off and hike in the mountains with his dog if he's crazy about you, because that's not how men are exactly wired.
Yeah.
Did your husband come on strong, or was he like the
you know what?
cool, silent
He was trying
type?
to be cool, but then he was like trying to make sure he asked me out, because he knew this other guy was asking me out.
Aha, that
and it was
little
his friend.
competitive thing, right?
And I accidentally double booked a date, which was my mistake. And I really wanted to go on the date with Donnie. And I'm like, uh-oh, I double booked this date. So I went on the date with this other guy who is still one of my very good friends.
He lives here in
He
Aspen?
lives here in Aspen. And then my husband's like, okay, tomorrow night we're going on the next date for the wedding. And the other guy's like, no, let's switch. I want to take her to the wedding. He's like, nope, I'll see you tomorrow, Rosalyn. And then I ended up staying another week, and he spent my birthday with me. And that was a lot of fun. He made it very special. And I was so happy, like for those few, like 2 or 3 weeks I was there, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so happy. And my sister's like, what are you doing? I said, I have no idea.
How old were you at the time?
I was just turned 22.
Wow, you were
I was
young.
very young. And I actually decided I was not going to date, period. I was just so focused on going to Brazil and working, and this guy just switched things for me. My mind was somewhere else, and he brought my mind back to him. So it was very exciting. And then he chased me down to Florida. And
Yeah, a
said,
guy
you
will
know
chase
what?
you too, right?
Yes,
That was
he
good. That was a good sign.
It was a good sign. If a guy really wants to be with you, he'll chase you down. So he came and said, you know what? I love you. I don't know what's going on, but I want to be with you, and I hope you someday come back to Aspen and be with me. And you know, it all went downhill from there. Got married, had a kid, and we're very much in love. And,
Yeah,
you know.
we have a friend in New York named Lucy, who's a beautiful, smart girl. I mean, she's just perfect. And she met some guy in San Francisco who is like running businesses and things, and he never has time to see her. I was like, oh, I'm running my business. I have to go to Europe. I have to go here. And she said, what do I think? I said, no, Lucy, if he really, I mean, like, wake up. McFly, the guy is like not that interested. He's not that into you, you know?
So, you know, you just have to take all that. And that's when I realized, because, you know, I ran into a situation with boys and men, and I was like, you know what, red flag, you know, if he's not there, you know, that's just how it is, and you have to move on. So,
Yeah.
And I actually said that to myself a week before it happened with Donnie. I said, I'm done dating. If someday I end up with a guy, it's because he wants to be with me, and he's going to have to come after me. So.
There you go, and it worked, right?
It worked.
So how long did you know between the time that you first met Don and the time that you said, wow, this is obviously the guy I'm going to spend my life with?
Well, you know, I really liked him. You know, you always see how things go in those first few weeks, but I was just the happiest I could possibly be with this one person. And, you know, I let a few months go by. We saw each other over the summer. And you know, we had a moment when we got to see each other over the summer, and I just knew. And
Do you think there's something biochemical, Rosalyn? Because to me, it's like when you get that feeling, it's like makes you crazy. It's almost biochemical, right? I mean,
yeah, it is. I mean, you know, the excitement and attraction, of course, has to be there. I mean, that's a given. And just a passionate, you know, just having passion of the way you want to live together. And I realized he had passion for life, and I had passion for life, and we were just so, it was just perfect.
but what would
know?
you advise a girl who's watching the show now? She's 25, let's say, and she says, oh, I met this guy. He's a really nice guy, and he bought me flowers, and I don't really like him that much, but I guess I could learn to love him. What would you tell that girl?
Well, you definitely have to be attracted to him. I would say that first. I think that's very important because, yes, looks fade, but, you know, just that being attracted to somebody I think is important regardless. I would give it time, just see how he treats you and how you treat him. I think it's not just one way, like one just always giving and giving and giving. You need a
Yeah, you do
guy,
need some
you
give
know,
and take, right?
Give and take, but yeah, I think sometimes I've heard of love stories where, you know, a girl's like, you know what, I really just didn't see this guy being my boyfriend, but now they're madly in love with each other, attracted to each other, and just so happy. You know, every situation's a little different, but, you know, definitely.
You
if
never know.
have
You don't
that-
know what works for somebody else,
Yes.
but we all can tell what works for us.
Definitely.
So let's talk a little bit. So you got married, right? You have a daughter,
Yes, we do. 5 years
Layla.
old.
I love that name.
Yes, I picked that name out from the Eric Clapton song,
Right.
Layla.
My granddaughter is Layla, so
Oh.
that's why I love it.
That's great.
Yep.
That's a beautiful name. Definitely a suiting name for my daughter. I've never met your granddaughter, but it's.
How old is Layla now?
She's 5,
And she's
she'll-
skiing?
She skis, and boy, she's actually. So here's the answer to that question you had before. Does something make you nervous, or will it make you nervous? My daughter sometimes scares me so much. She flies down the mountain, and I go pretty fast. And
Did you teach her to ski? Or did you start with powder pandas or something? How did
I
she
started
learn?
taking her skiing when she was 18 months old, and just putting on little training skis, scootering her down the mountain with me. And then I started progressing to bigger skis and just going with her and with me. And then finally I put her in powder pandas, and she loves that. That is the most amazing place you can put a child, because they have so much fun there. And then now she's doing ABSC at Highlands, and she's really enjoying that. Me, I don't know how to teach her really how to ski too much, being such a snowboarder.
And Donnie's a boarder too.
And he's
so.
a boarder, and so, but she loves it, and she wants to be a boarder someday. She wants to be a half-pipe snowboarder.
Wow.
And
Like Gretchen Bleiler, huh?
yes, yes,
So
she's actually tries to get in the
What
half-pipe.
will you do? Now you're a parent, okay? I'm always interested in this concept of going full circle and how everything comes around. What will you do differently with Layla than your parents did with you? Did you learn anything from your relationship with your family
did,
that will
yeah.
translate into how you treat your daughter?
You know what? my parents were really great examples for me. Probably I won't do too much different because they were just the way they brought me up. They were so loving and giving, and also the discipline that they had was so amazing in my life. I don't see me changing too much else because they were just such great examples of bringing up your child, you know.
So you think that you're so happy with the model they've presented to you that if you could just reproduce that,
yes,
you'd
I'd be
happy.
pretty happy.
Did your parents? Nowadays we have something which I'm totally guilty of called helicopter parents. They're always hovering over their kids, making sure. Did your parents give you enough slack to screw up, or were they?
They were making sure they hovered a little bit. Yeah, I'm sure they had their eyeglasses, you know, from their helicopter. Yeah, they hovered, but you know what? If you made mistakes, they didn't beat you up too much about it. They actually taught you how to learn from your mistakes, and to move forward and grow and excel and be like a really great person, and how to live your life. And so they definitely gave me a lot of really great ethics growing up on how to live your life. And but yeah, I think they trusted me because they also say, you know what, we've taught you the right things and you understand the right tools to go about with life, you know, but they make sure they kept their tabs on me too.
Yeah,
So,
I think you need to have a balance, but sometimes, especially now, when kids are so programmed, you know, they're going to karate and yoga and 42 activities and
they're busy.
reading War and Peace when they're 3 years old, and they don't have a chance to be kids anymore.
No, that's unfortunate too. I mean, I used to go out as a child and build tree forts and play in the mud and play in the creek. And I mean, I think that's being a kid right there. Sometimes you get caught up too much.
It's okay to just do like unstructured stuff.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about your artwork. You found this love for art.
Yes.
Tell us about what the evolution of that was.
Well, as a child, I loved to draw. My mom realized first, right off the bat, that I had a drawing talent and that I could understand a lot of things with, you know, structure with the art. And she's like, okay, I'll just let her have all the crayons and paper and pencils she wants. And so I really did a lot of pencil drawings, and I wanted to be an animator when I was young. And I thought someday I would go off to Disney World and be an animator for them, and that was my goal. And I started doing computer graphics and web designing and different things like that, and video and videography. I mean, photography and videography, I meant to say, sorry. And I still was drawing a lot, still doing a little animating. I thought, you know, I was going to go off to film school and do some animation and filming, and then I ended up taking a different route. I decided one day with my friend, we're like, let's just go paint on the beach. And I went and picked up some paints, and we started painting, and something in me just hit like a bolt of lightning. I was like, I love this. This is my newfound dream. This is what I want to do.
First of all, it's my opinion, I have no artistic talent, but my father does. And I think it's something that you're born with. I think you can enhance it through study and everything.
Yes.
But I can like barely make a stick man, you know, and people, when I see them draw something, I'm impressed. I wish I had some musical talent, some artistic talent. I don't really, that's not my strong suit. But you had it from the time you were a little kid.
Yes, I did, definitely. But I mean, a lot of people are born with certain things, with artistic ability, music ability, numbers ability, the ability to speak. Or some people, you know, they have to work on it. They have to.
In my case, it's not speaking; it's BSing.
It's a BSing. Oh, I know your secret now.
Let's pull up on a little tight picture here. If you can come to me on camera one, we're going to show this. Just come in tight, and you can tell us what's on this picture,
Okay,
Rosalyn.
well, I have a black and white photo right there. I do a lot of black and white paintings with paintbrush, and I try to make them look a little more like photography, and that has been very popular. What is very popular right now is my ice cream girls and motorcycles and horses. And what the technique is I drip the paint onto the canvas. The canvas is laid flat, and I spin the canvas. I take this, it looks like mustard bottles is what it looks like, ketchup and mustard bottles, and I just drip the paint onto the canvas, and over time...
Like a Jackson Pollock kind of thing going on there, huh?
And then it just forms the image over time, and you'll get like the highlights and shadows, and actually has movement to it, which is so neat. So when you change the lighting on the painting from low to dark, the painting changes. I designed them so they would change over time. They become really popular. So that's been my main focus, is those paintings, and they're really great. They're actually fun for doing live shows because it's something that the audience can interact with you, and they can see how it's done. It's a lot of fun to watch.
Sounds really cool. So are your paintings for sale here in Aspen?
They are. They are at Aspen Art Gallery in town. Damien owns the gallery there. It's on Mill Street. And so I have a couple paintings in there right now. I'm going to be bringing in some more
Damien's
soon.
from New Orleans?
He is.
Yes,
from New
I know
Orleans.
Damien.
Yes, he's quite
Yeah.
a character, isn't he?
I was curious, before we move on to another subject, I want to show some of your paintings also, so
Yes.
turn that on while we're
Okay.
talking. But I was curious what you thought of the X Games, which is extreme,
Extreme
sports, and specifically what you thought of the death of the
Yeah.
of the snowmobiler
I thought that
a
was
few
really,
weeks ago.
really sad.
What you're a person who embraces extreme sports. You're not you're not embarrassed to take risk.
Yeah.
You want risk. Are we going too far?
Sometimes and I see a lot, even in skydiving, where somebody takes it a little too far. You know, what's great about sports at this level is you have so many people showing you the math of what you're doing and whether it makes sense and whether you're capable of doing it. Sometimes I see people just pushing it maybe a tad too far, and yes, maybe the math does make sense, but what is the ratio, or what's not the ratio, but the percentage of that you're actually going to get through this
Yeah,
thing.
because it was
And I think
interesting.
there's a line there, you know. It's a thin line.
When the X Games started, I love the X Games. I think it's a great thing for Aspen, and I don't think there's anything wrong with people taking sensible risks.
Yes.
Okay, Gretchen Blyler goes up in the half pipe.
Yes.
She can get injured. Okay, but at least she can control it. There's
Yes.
certain
And
variables
there's
she can
She
control.
can come back from it, even if she gets injured, and it's not going to be fatal.
Mostly she can, but
Yeah.
the thing that gets me about this one, when I first saw that motorcycle, the snowmobile flipping thing, I said, my first reaction was, well, these guys must all be orphans, because nobody's
No
mother
parents.
would let them do that.
No.
It's a 400-pound sled,
Oh, it's
and it's
crazy.
flipping in the
Yeah.
air, and I know they practice, I know they're incredibly skilled, but the analogy I used recently, Rosalyn, was that if you had an event where people could get and jump out of a building, okay, and you jumped out of the second floor and you survived, you fell in the, and each time you went up another floor, it became more dangerous. You'd have people, because of the fame, the money, a lot of these kids are from small towns, they don't get any attention, they're not in
Yeah.
Aspen. Suddenly, you'd have people jumping out of the 18th story because they wanted to be the best, like, floor jumper guy.
Yeah.
I think at
Yeah.
a certain point we have
Yeah.
to have some constraints,
Exactly.
and that
Yeah.
may be the event. I'm not
Yeah.
saying it is, but I'm saying that somehow we have to not encourage people to kill themselves.
Yeah, I know. I've actually stopped one of my friends once because one of my friends got hurt doing a stunt, and you could just tell it was not a good idea. Like, you could just look and it was wrong. Everything was wrong. But they were going to push themselves and do it anyway. And I had to stop my friend. I'm like, you can't do
Yeah,
this.
it's like
This is-
just
this
too
is-
dumb.
This is
All right,
not
let's
gonna
see some
happen.
pictures.
So yeah. All right. So this.
Yeah, I'll hold them
yeah,
up, and
so
you can
this is
just,
the
if you come up
one
to me
I
on camera
just
one,
did.
I'm going to
Hopefully
hold
there's
the
not too much
the
glare.
little digital screen here,
So
and
that I
Rosalyn's going to
just
explain
did.
some of her art.
So this one I just finished. It's 16 square feet, so it's 4 feet by 4 feet, and it's the horse is running. This was also done in the drip technique, and it's available right now at Aspen Art Gallery. And actually this one has a little bit of history behind it. It's a little emotional. I was painting this painting when that tragic thing happened with the shooting at the school recently. And
In Sandy Hook.
yes,
Yeah.
and this painting was going to be a different painting, and I decided to make this where they're running, where they're almost lifted into clouds, like being free. So I actually made a little bit of inspiration to the children with this painting.
Well, we should donate this to the school. We should.
Yeah,
that
I
would-
actually thought about it.
Actually, that would be a
so-
beautiful thing. Show us another one.
Yes. And this, I do a lot of motorcycles,
Are you a motorcyclist?
I love
Yeah, my mother never let me
motorcycles,
have a motorcycle
but
because she
I
said they're
almost
dangerous.
my mom did not like motorcycles, to be honest. But that was the one thing I probably
Motorcycles
didn't
and
listen on.
BB guns, they couldn't
So-
have them in my house.
So here's this. It's also done the drip, and you can't probably see it too well in here, but there's a thing called a sugar coating that I do. It looks like sugar, and I coat it. And when the light hits it, it sparkles all over the canvas, and it kind of looks like diamonds or sugar all over the canvas. So that's actually been a very popular type of painting with the motorcycles, and a lot of bikers and bike collectors buy these, especially in Aspen. They come through Aspen quite a bit.
They love it. Do you think there's such a thing, Rosalyn, as good art and bad art? I saw something in the paper recently, and I don't remember who it was, but they said, well, we know good art when we see it. I'm not so sure that we know good art when we see it.
I think it's a touchy subject, to be honest, but I think sometimes, like, there's really amazing artists. One of my favorites is Steve Hanks, and he's just phenomenal. But then I see some art out there, and it's almost like, you know, there's really great art. There's some good art. There's some art that's, you know, okay. But I have seen some art recently as I was traveling across the U.S., and it was a little disturbing. I'm like, you know what? I think there's a line that you could cross where it could be so disturbing and so.
But isn't art supposed to disturb us and make us uncomfortable?
Yes, it is. It is.
Like if you look at Damien Hirst stuff, you know, if someone told you before he made this genre, you know, famous, we're going to put a dead shark in a tank of formaldehyde, you know, and put that in the museum, would you say that's the most brilliant thing I ever heard of?
I don't know. I haven't really seen that, so I couldn't tell you. So when I do, I'll give you an answer. So.
But it's an interesting thing. I don't think that any of us can really define what's good art or bad art because it's how it affects us as individuals.
You know, and people have emotional ties to art too, and that's what drives them to do certain things. So I think you have to put yourself in that artist's shoes before you can make that judgment. I think you're gonna have to see what they're going through, what they're thinking, and what inspired them to actually go and do that.
Well, that's the interesting part. What was going on in their head? Because like some of Francis Bacon's stuff, which is like sells for $100 million, $80 million, I look at it and it's tormented. It's like it scares me because I know that whatever he was going through at the time, emotionally, was just like scary, but I still see the brilliance in it. I mean, I like it, but it scares me. I don't even want to look at it. It gives me, creeps me out, but I like it.
Yeah, I've seen some art like that, and I'm like, well, actually, it's quite brilliant, but it does scare me, and maybe gave me a little bit of a nightmare that night. So.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit. There was one thing in your bio that caught my attention that I thought was at least 2 standard deviations from most. I don't want to generalize, but most young Aspen people, I think it's fair to say, are here to have a great time and they're enjoying life, enjoying the outdoors, they're spiritual in whatever way, but you have a very strong attachment and faith in God.
Yes, I do.
Talk about that, because I think a certain percentage of America, of the world, the influence of God and organized religion has waned a little bit.
Yes, it has.
So talk about your personal experience with that.
Well, to me, God is everything in my life.
You belong to a church.
I do belong to church, and it's an amazing church.
Which church is it?
Crossroads Church. It's right here on Francis Street. It's right in the corner of the S-turn.
It's a Christian church?
It is, and it's just amazing. You'll love the people there, and they probably one of the most kindest, open, non-judgmental people you'll meet, and they are just amazing people. Pastor Steve Woodrow's there. He's the pastor of the church, and when I go there, I learn so much more about God, and I learn so much more about myself and about other people and community, and you're constantly growing, and I see a difference in my husband, and there's a light there.
Was your husband religious when you met him?
No, he was not.
Were you raised religious? Were you raised with a faith?
I was raised believing in God and having a relationship with God. And yes, we did go to church quite a bit, always. And, you know, for me, going to church isn't a ritual or it's a good thing to do. It's actually my time to go.
Were you Baptist coming from that area, or what was your?
Yeah, I guess it was more like Baptist, you know, growing up. I don't ever really put a like whether you're Baptist or Mormon or whatever, it's more like what you believe, that you believe in God and have a relationship with Him, and that's how I was raised growing up, and this is how this church is as well.
And you want your daughter to have that same perspective.
You know what? She's actually shocked me. She came up to me and asked me all these questions, and she decided, she wanted to know God and get to know Him. And she was only 4.5 years old, and she kind of blew my mind because she communicated to me like an adult would, but her heart was just so open and so pure, and she really wanted to know about God and what He had for her life. So she asked a lot of questions.
Was your husband religious in a sort of going to church kind of way when you met him?
No, he wasn't. But I know he was raised in a Catholic home, so I know he was raised somehow in a religious home base, which was with his mom. When I met him, nothing was going on in his life, but he saw, that's the one thing that attracted him to me. Like, he was attracted about me. He was like, wow, there's something different about you. There's
you were different than all the other girls that he had met.
Yeah,
and you think that it's due to your whatever this religious feeling or faith that you have made you somebody maybe more substantial in his eyes?
Yeah, actually, I think so. That was the one thing he brought up the first week he met me. He wanted to know what was so different. He's like, and he kept on asking questions about God and things, and it opened his eyes to something new for him, and he was curious, and he wanted to know more, and I've seen him change, and now he's the same way. He has this light in him, and he's just such an amazing guy, and I've seen him grow so much.
That's a fascinating perspective.
Yes.
Do you think there's a meaning to life? Do you think we're here for some reason?
Yes.
What's the meaning?
I think we're here to bring glory to God. I mean, I believe He created us, and that He wants us to bring glory and to have a wonderful relationship with Him if we choose to do so, and He's a loving God. So that's my perspective.
That's as good as anything I've heard. It's interesting to me. Would you have been complete if you didn't have children?
I don't know. I think I feel I'm so happy I have children. That is so nice to have my daughter, and I want more. I think everybody doesn't know. If they didn't have something, I don't think they would have known the difference, because they didn't have it. But once you have children, now if for some reason I should ever lose my daughter, I would definitely feel incomplete, because now she's become such a part of my life, and I adore her, and she's everything to me.
And has that strengthened your relationship with your husband, having a child?
Yes, it has. And he actually, he's like, can we have more? And he's like, can we have 5? I want bunches and bunches of them. I'm like, honey, I think we'll stick to 2 or 3. So, but it has,
It wouldn't be a complete show journalistically if we didn't discuss your illness, because here is a perfect, beautiful, intelligent, risk-taking, skydiving young lady who suddenly developed a very serious illness.
Yes.
So tell us what the first symptoms were, and tell us how the whole thing transpired.
Okay, well, just so everybody knows, I'm doing really well health-wise now. But when my daughter was 2 years old, I came home from Florida, and everything was wonderful. I was getting ready for an art event. And I worked really hard that week getting some paintings done. And that night, we were having this huge event, and a lot of guests were going to be arriving. And I was getting in the shower, getting ready for the day, and it was early enough in the day. And all of a sudden, I was in the shower. I felt like I was having like a heart attack. And my husband had to pull me out of the shower, and he instantly took me to the doctor. They didn't know what was going on.
But
were
you having pain?
Pain, yeah, and I couldn't like stand up or nothing. And he had to lay me on the couch. So that was the first symptom. And then that was just kind of weird, and it passed, and we figured everything was fine. The doctor's like, you know what, you seem to be fine. So just, take it easy for a while and see how you do. As the time progressed, I started losing my vision in my right side of my
in the right eye.
In my right eye. Things would be blurry, and I couldn't see.
Did they diagnose it right away or not?
Well, it took them a little time, and then I lost my motor skills in my right side of my body, and they
go
diagnosed
back to the
me
vision.
with,
When you had the vision problem, did you go to a doctor?
Yes, I did.
And
instantly.
they looked in, and the interesting thing about Rosalind has multiple sclerosis.
Yes,
She's been
that's what they
diagnosed.
said.
The interesting thing about loss of vision with multiple sclerosis is comes from retrobulbar neuritis. And so when the patient doesn't see, and when the doctor looks in, the optic nerve head is normal, okay?
Yeah.
So it's really hard to make the diagnosis sometimes in a young patient because you don't see anything and they don't see anything, and it's like, you think like could be
And
wackos.
they look at you like, you seem like a healthy, normal young woman.
Yeah.
So when things progressed, the doctor's like, okay, I wanted to talk to you. I'm pretty sure you have MS. And he
And
said,
tell me,
"Let's do
wait a
a few
minute, you
more."
started to get this numbness in your hand. Describe that.
I couldn't use my right hand to type. Like, I would try to get my fingers to do stuff, and it just wouldn't do it.
It was
And I was
uncoordinated,
frustrated.
or
Yeah,
what was
just
it?
sometimes I couldn't even get it to move right or respond. I was like, why is it not responding? And so I just started getting lots of motor skills, like here and there. And it wouldn't be like consistent. Like some days it would work just fine, and some days it didn't. I was so confused.
Did you think this could have been psychological at first, or what did the doctor say?
No, because I was trying to be, I love doctors, and sometimes I just try to be a little bit cautious with them as well, because I know some things could happen, misdiagnosing. So I was very careful, and I gave it some time. I didn't want to rush into anything. And over testing and testing, he's like, you have MS, I want to put you on this medication.
But they did an MR
did.
scan.
They did
And how many
several
lesions
MRs.
did you have?
You know what? I don't remember right now.
But you had multiple lesions.
I had something going on up there, and they were trying to figure out what was going out, and they did other tests where they hooked me up to machines. So I had several MRIs.
EMGs, right.
CAT scans or whatever. I can't really remember everything because it's been 3 years now, or 2.5.
That was all done in Florida or here?
No, actually here.
Okay.
And so I had to commute down Valley quite a bit because a lot of this technology was not up
Was
here
it
at
a
the time.
neurologist who made the diagnosis?
Yeah, a neurologist did it. And so anyway, I didn't take his word for it. I was like, you know what, I might not have MS.
Yeah, because you didn't really want that diagnosis.
No, you don't.
Like, tell me I have something else, like the flu, right?
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. I'm like, it has to be something else, a virus or something. So that was the way it was. But so I took some time just resting, and I, was always tired, always nauseated. Like I was nauseated all the time.
Were you taking medication right away?
They did put me on medication,
What
but
did
it
they
made me
give you?
worse. I don't remember what it was called, but they put me
One
on
of the interferons, though.
something like
Yeah.
that. And it made me feel worse, actually. So I said, I can't take this. I don't know what's going on, but until I know for sure what all is going on, I just don't want to do it. So I ended up getting off the medication that they put me on. And so time progressed, and I just tried to take care of myself, eat proper foods, vegetables, eat healthy, and put myself on a good, strict health food diet to see if it would start helping my body. And I had a lot of support. I had a lot of friends here in town. They helped me out a
There
lot.
are quite a few young women in town who have MS. I'm
Yes.
sure. How many do you
Yes.
know that have MS here in
Well,
Aspen?
don't know so much personally. I always run into people in town that their aunt has MS, their sister has MS, and mostly more women than men. It's very more common with that. And so I met this one lady in town, and her story inspired me a lot. She couldn't walk for 5 years, and she couldn't work, and she struggled. She had 2 sons, and that were grown up. They're in high school and moving forward with their lives. She was working towards just trying to improve herself and get better. And finally, after 5 years, she was able to walk a little bit and then go back to work. And I told her what I was going to be doing. So her story inspired me a lot. So just so we finished the story. Over 6 months, I went through this, and they kept on saying you have MS. And then for some reason, I started getting better on my own. And they never explained what was going on, whether it was just some kind of fluke virus that looked like MS or what. But after I got better, and they're like, you know what, we don't know what happened with you, but it looks like you possibly didn't have MS, or you had some kind of virus. So after 6 months of trying to heal, I was still tired for a few months after that. It's just coming around. But after I started getting better and stronger, and focusing on my family again, I realized the impact this MS has in women, especially in Colorado and Wyoming. It seems to be such a it's a lot higher here for some reason.
The incidence is higher.
It's higher, and so it opened my eyes to see something through somebody else's eye. And I think God, whether he let me go through it as a gift to see something and let me get strong so I can actually go out and help somebody. If I wouldn't have gone through that, I wouldn't have had any clue what people go through that have MS and experience it on a daily basis, especially moms. They're trying to always take care of their children and be the best moms they can, and, struggling financially and emotionally and, fatigue. I decided after I went through that, I need to do something and help out. So I'm starting a foundation soon. I'm taking care of it, trying to get together with whoever in my area, the district, for the MS Foundation. Then I'm working on getting some Arts for MS and getting artists together and different people and volunteers and start doing major art fundraisers just for the funding that they need. And I told this young lady that, and she was just so happy. And she said, "We definitely need help in this area."
There are
It's
a lot of
definitely-
artists who feel that illnesses have affected their art. Do you think it's affected your art?
Yeah, I mean, after I came back from that, definitely you feel more inspired. I always grew up in a family that taught live today like it's your last, because you have to live it to the fullest always. And I always believed that and lived my life that way. But I think it raised to a higher level and a higher bar.
So you
after I
look at life
experienced that.
differently now that you have this serious illness.
Yeah.
You're a religious person, Rosalyn. Did you blame God? Did you ever say, "God, why did you do this to me? I've been a good person. I go to church. I have a husband and a child, and I've tried to help other people, and why did you pick me?" Did you ever say that?
No, that's a very good question. Actually, I didn't. I didn't blame him. I definitely asked the question why. What would you like me to do? And sometimes I don't think you can easily get that answer. But I decided just to trust in him, and I said, "You know what? No matter what happens, I know you're here with me, and you're going to take care of me and my family." And that's.
It's a reassuring.
definitely-
It's very interesting to me because it's very reassuring if people have that faith like what you have, to know that everything will turn out as good as it's going to turn out, and that's a very reassuring thing, especially for someone with an illness. Not everybody has that. Some people,
No, they don't.
they get sick and they don't have that to fall back on. They may not need it, but if they do need it, they don't have it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see, my faith or God as a crutch actually either, but I just see it as something that moves me forward and makes me even stronger and makes me more clear on what I need to do in life. And there's when you go through hard things, I mean, whether it's financial struggles, relationship struggles, or illnesses, or something tragic happened, God doesn't want you to do everything alone. He said, he wants you to, he's always there with you. He's in a relationship with you. He's like your father. And he'll just take care of you. And, I trust in that. And he always has with me in my life. And I always have a calm, and even through hard times, a joy, because I'm able to see it for what it is, but still move forward and be happy with my family and the circumstances.
It's a fascinating way to look at life, probably a very positive way to look at it.
Yes.
I have a question for you. I don't know if I'm sure nobody ever asked you this, but it's going to be, when you got sick, I mean, you have an athletic, good-looking husband, a nice kid. Did you ever think, "Oh my God, will my husband leave me now"?
You know what?
Tell me the truth. Tell me did that
that's a good
cross your mind?
question.
Were you worried?
I don't know. I can't remember if that actually ever crossed my mind. But I was like, the one thing that did cross my mind is, oh my goodness, I'm going to be such a burden to my husband. Now that did cross my mind. And
So you were worried about how your illness would affect your relationship. That's fair to say.
Yeah, just with my husband, with my daughter. I'm not going to be able to run with my daughter because I wasn't able to run around with her for so long. Just do fun things with my husband. And I felt sad that maybe someday I won't be able to do these things with him. But what was reassuring is the relationship that we have then and even now was so strong and, you know, so close and such a we're best friends, and such a support that we have with each other, that I didn't doubt. You know, I knew that he'd always be there with me and be loving and kind, you know, but I just wanted to make sure I was always there for him too. And that's what was kind of hard mentally, is will I be able to be there
Will
for
you
him?
be able to do the things that he wants as a husband?
Yeah.
And did you discuss it with him? Did you ever sit down and say, let's talk, I've got this
Yeah, a
terrible
little
problem.
bit, you
I
know.
didn't want it, you know,
Yeah,
I
I
wanted
told him I
like the
was-
flu.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I told him I was scared.
how did those conversations go?
They were really positive, like just to see how strong and how, you know, how much he's grown over the years that I've known him. Even then, those 2 years that we were, or 3 years we were married 3 years. He's like a rock to me, you know, he is. I was definitely scared. I had to admit to him I was scared, and he had to admit he was scared.
Everybody was scared, but
everybody's
it's good to
scared.
talk about
Yeah, you have to talk about those things. If you don't talk about these things, it can cause a wedge over time. So it's good to always get that out, talk about it, and I think then you're always on the same page. You know who the other one's feeling, what the other person is feeling, and what they're going through. And I think then after you do that, you're able to be there for each other. And even when he was taking care of me and helping me out a lot more, I was there for him in my small way I could be, you know? So it's good to have those talks, you know?
Yeah, I can tell, by the way, I don't know if you can see this on camera, but I can tell that Rosalyn's very choked up right now. She's very emotional because
Yeah,
it's a
it's
good time for you
definitely
to
emotional.
reflect on all these things that have
Yeah.
happened in your life. You know, my father lives with my father's almost 92, and he has this sort of Hindu caregiver lady who comes in and makes him breakfast and everything. And she always says, whatever it is, that's your drama. This is how your life is played out. You know, everybody has some drama in their life, and this is your drama that you're playing out. What do you think is your best quality, if you could pick one thing?
Well, currently being a mom, probably. I think she brought out really great things about me that I didn't know that were quite in there. I don't think you know those are in there until you're a mom or a parent. I hope, I see myself as a giving person, so I hope that's one of my best qualities. One, I'm trying to always be happy and positive around people.
And I
be
noticed
giving
that it comes
with
out, it's
them.
actually tangible and palpable, that you're trying to be positive with whatever life throws at you. And not all of us can do that. Some of us get weighed down. But I had a partner once who was also very religious when I was still practicing medicine. And he always used to say, everybody has problems in their life. It's just how you deal with those problems that differentiates you. He says, someday you're going to have something. Your kid's going to, you know, fall down and break his leg or get ill or be an alcoholic, or something's going to happen. And how you deal with that will define you as a person. I thought that was good advice.
Yeah, that's
so
definitely good
what do you
advice.
think? Do you have any flaws? I haven't detected any.
Let me see. Yeah, I have several.
What would Don say?
Well, physically, he hates my toenails. So that's funny. But sometimes I definitely. I'm an artist, so sometimes I see myself wandering off and maybe not being. My husband's more of the intellectual. And sometimes he sees me wandering off the artist's ways, and he's like, reels me in. So maybe that's one of them.
Well, you are an absolutely fascinating young lady,
you.
Rosalyn, and I'm delighted to have you on the show. I think you have a compelling human interest story, and you're a good friend here in Aspen. And so anybody who sees Rosalyn on the street, please go over and say hello and tell her how much you enjoyed her story, because it's a great one, and we're going to enjoy seeing her and Layla and Don grow up for many years to come. And thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure being here.
Okay, that was great. We'll
All right,
see you next week.
All right.
Support for this grassroots community television program comes from U.S. Trust. From wealth structuring to investment management, U.S. Trust's global perspective, unique team approach, fiduciary platform, and more than 200 years of experience provide for the kind of insights, solutions, and expertise that have a worth all their own.
Bishop Plumbing and Air Conditioning, serving Aspen and Vale for over 40 years. Shoe covers, name tags, IDs. Let Bishop worry about your heating, plumbing, and air conditioning issues so that you don't have to. Bishop Plumbing and Air Conditioning, 925-8610.
Bovino Law Firm, a boutique law firm specializing in complex litigation, real estate, leasing, and sales, corporate organization, trust, and estates. Admitted in Colorado, California, and New York. David Bovino and Summer Woodson at 970-925-4445 or www.bovinolaw.com.